All right, about to get started. Going to record episode 7, which is Practicing Safe Internet Part 2. About to get started here. 1 second. Let's make some adjustments here. See. Can you see me? I hope not. I look terrible. I got sunburn. What? I got lights over here that don't light things very well. That's better. Yes. Definitely put the light in my face, like right in my face. That's great. And that was me doing that to me, too. Sometimes I don't know about myself. I'll have to have a talk to myself later. Tell myself not to do that stuff. Stop being crazy. Okay, now I've wasted a minute. I shall start recording. I think I'm gonna start recording. I was just waiting a second for something to finish running. See, this is why you watch the YouTube video, because it's uncut and I do weird stuff. And I try to get this stupid lamp to show me this is me. Better? Worse? 1 or 2? 1 or 2? Like an eye exam. Yeah, it's like, it's late and I'm just entertaining myself while I'm waiting for something to finish running, but for some reason I decided I should probably hit play on the video and give you 2 minutes of some weird stuff. You're welcome. Alright, focus. Here we go. Hi, welcome. This is episode 7 of Finding Your Identity. It is part 2 of the series, I suppose you can call it, or the 2-part series of Practicing Safe Internet. I'm going to continue talking about how to practice safe internet because it is an important thing to know. Now, the last time, I talked about VPNs, which was essentially giving you the ability to mask your actions on the internet, and also, talked about being careful when you click on links. Now, I want to start off and talk about some good practices when you're browsing the internet. For instance, when you visit a website, it's recorded in the browser history. Everything is stored, and it's meant to be out of convenience so that you can easily pull up a web page. They call it caching. So it's stored in a way where all of the assets, assets that are associated with the web page, the images and any media like videos, audio, stuff like that, is essentially saved locally in your browser on your computer so that it can load faster. So it's a good feature, having things cached, but it also means it's remembering everything that you looked at. Now, there's obviously a trade-off. You're going to get the pages loading faster, but potentially, your browser is kind of storing all this information, which is in the form of cookies, and it's storing it in the browser memory. So it's, saving whatever you were doing. So as a good measure, I like to encourage people to clear their history frequently, specifically clear cookies. You don't necessarily have to clear cache, even though clearing cache is also part of the steps of erasing your privacy data from a browser. So if you're going to do this purge, you might as well just do everything, but you do have options as to what you can choose. Now, if you're in Chrome, it's the most popular browser out there these days, and if you're in Chrome, you just go into settings, you navigate, if you're on a phone, you're going to click on the little menu icon, you're going to search for privacy or privacy data or something to that effect, and what you'll do is you'll dig into there, and you'll see something that says erase or clear history or clear privacy data, something along those lines. And once you get to the section where you are able to clear that, you're going to see in Chrome you'll see two options, which I guess it depends if you're on the mobile browser on your phone or tablet, or if you're on a desktop on a computer. Personal computer, it depends, but you'll sometimes just see the option as basic or advanced. So what you have to do is, click into advanced to really see all the options of what you can clear. There's also certain site settings and sometimes it's like media licenses. There's other things that get stored too. I mean, the main thing is the browser history. You got the browser history, you got the cache, and you got the cookies, and you're essentially trying to wipe out those three things, but clearing site settings, clearing any other means that of storing your personal info or your local browsing habit info. You want to clear all that stuff. Now, there's usually also the option to clear it for just the day, or potentially for all time, as Google calls it. So I think you have to kind of decide, well, I'm going in here for a reason to clear all this stuff, that really you should be doing it everything. I think you can be selective too, because it also has stored passwords, it has stored form, if it's a contact form or address form or whatever it is, that stuff is stored. You can choose to not check those off so that they remain, so your passwords will still be saved in your browser, and your auto complete or auto fill information, as they call it, will still be there. So when you go to fill out an address, it'll just pull a little drop down, and you'll be able to pull up your address info quicker. So that is one thing that is beneficial, is storing that info, so you don't have to clear that info. But I do recommend clearing the cookies, because you're trying to sever the connection, in a sense, to the advertisers or the data analytics firms. So you're really trying to kind of cut that off, and the best way to do that is to clear cookies. And you clear your browser history, just because it actually, all that stuff builds up in your computer, on your phone. That's all stuff that has to be stored somewhere. It has to be stored on whatever device it is. So, you have to imagine it's also kind of healthy for the device to do this clearing, especially if you use multiple browsers, and considering everything ends up at the browser, when it comes to the internet. Most things, I should say, not everything, but apps generally have some kind of what they call a web view, so it is to some degree using a browser, even though it's inside of an app. Amazon does it, and Facebook does it. It doesn't look like it; it's pretty seamless, but it's still underlying, using a default browser. So that stuff just kind of keeps building up. So it's a good idea to just clear that stuff out anyways. It helps your devices run a little bit faster. Now, there's one tool in particular that I recommend, and I don't really have any other suggestions for an app like this, because this is the one that I've been using for many years, and I think it works great. It's called CCleaner. It's just the letter C and then cleaner. There is a free version. The company that makes it is Piriform, Piriforme. You can Google CCleaner or Piriform, and then you gotta dig a little bit, but you'll find the free version is there. They do try to get you to upgrade and pay for a paid version, but generally you don't need it. You could use it. They offer additional features. Obviously, if you pay, you're going to get additional features. So you could choose to upgrade, but I don't use it. I don't upgrade. I just use what I've got in the free version. Now, the free version essentially is good for going through the system and clearing at kind of a system level, clearing a lot of your history and your cookies and your cache data, your stuff that's sitting on the hard drive or in memory that that is just kind of hanging out there, and it's just a good idea to get rid of it. And CCleaner will even tell you, hey, you're going to free up 1 gigabyte of space on your computer by running this now, because it's basically scanned or analyzed your hard drive, and it sees that you've got Internet Explorer. I'm talking specifically on a Windows machine. You got Internet Explorer, you got Chrome, you got Firefox. You probably have some other apps that maybe cache stuff, like, I don't know, Photoshop or something like that. So that being said, it's kind of like this routine maintenance thing that you should be doing to clear this data, so that it's not bogging the machine down, but it's also again, this is helping you with trying to sever your ties with the big data companies that are tracking you. You're severing ties by basically cutting off the data source, making them have to start profiles fresh. And in a minute, I'll explain a little bit further about how this goes deeper into the online advertising. But CCleaner is what I'd recommend, because I think it's a good app for just helping you clear it out. Now, once you've got it downloaded and installed, one of the nice features is you can, I think by default it actually sets this up, but it's kind of linked to your recycling bin, your trash bin on your Windows machine. So when you right click it, it'll have an option that says, run CCleaner, and that in essence will clean the trash and also run and do because you pretty much have all these things preset. So it'll clean your trash bin out, delete all the stuff you've deleted from your computer, delete it permanently, and then actually, do your clearing of your browser history and cookies and stuff like that. There are options, if you dig into it a little bit, into some of the advanced options, where you can run what they call, additional passes on your data. So, running it one time to delete it technically doesn't get rid of it all the way. So you can do, more secure deletion. So it'll actually delete it and then, run through the hard drive a second time and, attempt to do another pass at deleting it. And, and it's kind of fake fills the sections where they were in essence. Because really what it is deleting is really just, kind of trying to cover up where you had the file located on the hard drive. It's trying to kind of fill that spot back in. It'll kind of erase it by kind of clearing it out, clearing out the spot that it was in. I don't know, I'm probably doing a terrible job trying to explain this in layman's terms, but just trust me when I tell you that doing multiple passes on when you're deleting data is recommended. And I think, so I would recommend that CCleaner app. I think it's a good app. Yes, good app. Pausing for a second so we can get into the next section. And I can just make sure the audio is working good. What's next on the docket? I don't know, Derek. Well, you're a terrible assistant. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, shopping online. That's tasty. Well, only if you're buying food. Tasty subject. Here we go. Now, you got a good tool for clearing your data. And the reason why it's important is because when you start shopping online frequently, which pretty much everybody does, I mean, anyone who's on the internet, when you're shopping online, you're hitting websites that are essentially setting cookies, and they're tracking your every move because they want to know, what your shopping habits are, what you're looking for. They want to try to figure out what to upsell you or even just directly promote to you, because they don't know who you are when you first get there. So they use this analytics data to try to help get a sale, essentially. So, this is where the e-commerce sites are really, paying close attention to what you're doing. You click on a car shopping site, cars.com, to do a search, to figure out what you want for a new car. And then you end up on a site to buy it. Like maybe it's a dealership site or a Carvana or Vroom. Those are two new e-commerce type sites where they're actually letting you buy cars online now. And you end up on one of those sites and you are looking at, Mazda somethings. I'm trying to think of a Mazda Miata. You're looking at Mazda Miatas. It's just fun to say. So you're looking at red Mazda Miatas. Now they get this idea that you're into that car. Now maybe, I don't know how much Mazda Miatas are, but let's say they're $25,000, and they're thinking, well, maybe they want this equally small, tiny car that's a convertible that's $30,000. So now that you've looked at that Miata, their kind of algorithms are kind of churning in the background and finding something similar that they might be able to pitch to you as like something that's an alternative, but it might cost a little bit more money. Or they see that you've looked at that car several times and you're still not ready. They may just find, the equivalent in a Ford. I don't know if that's a Ford Focus. Who knows what it is, but whatever the equivalent is. I guess if you look at like Toyota Camrys and Honda Accords, and that was a Camry and an Accord, and I'm sure there's another car that's equally sedanized. That sounds weird. There's sedans. There are all these four-door sedans that are very similar, and probably similar in price range. Let's say they're all around like $20,000, and the company sees that you're looking at whatever the car you're looking at. Miatas, Focus. I guess there's the Taurus, maybe the Taurus and the Camry and the Accord. And you're looking at these three cars, but you started off looking at that Focus or Taurus. I keep saying Focus, and you're looking at that Taurus, and you're thinking, I'm interested in this, but I don't know. Like, there's something about it I don't like. So you're on the first couple pages and you're looking at it, and then next thing you know, you're going to another page, and now they're suggesting to you. This is what I was trying to get to in a long roundabout way. You get to another page, and now they're suggesting the Camry or the Accord because they sell those as well, and you didn't seem to be interested, and they don't want to lose you. They don't want to lose you because you weren't really sold on the Taurus, so they're trying to throw something else at you to be like, hey, but because these are online, digital AI salespeople, these ads are like trying to, coax you to stay inside and not walk off the lot because they want you to buy something today, and they don't want you to leave, because if you abandon the site and you haven't made a purchase, that's lost potential for them to make money. So they're trying with, advertisements. Now, all this stuff has to happen based off of storing something about you and about your purchase. So, you hit this website, and okay, now they've got your IP address, and now they can associate an IP address with an actual vehicle that you're looking at, so they can make this assumption. Okay, this IP address, we can say that this is in Hartford, Connecticut, and we know that's the location. And now we're tying to, okay, well, this IP address is a John Doe right now. So let's say he's in Hartford looking for a 4-door sedan that's like a Taurus, but maybe is a Camry or maybe an Accord. So you got all this information that's sitting there, and it's now gathered and it's built this little profile. Now, if they can get you to take a next step to get in some kind of mailing list, subscribe to a newsletter for whatever reason, or sign up for free whatever consultation with a sales rep, or make an appointment to go see a car. They get your email address, maybe your first name, your last name, maybe a phone number. Now you've got all that information that is now tied to that purchase history, or that, not the purchase history, but the search history when you're looking to purchase a car. So now they've built this profile. Now this data tracker, whoever it is looking at it, and they're like, whoa, okay, so we got Derek McKinney looking at a Ford Taurus, potentially a Camry. He's in Hartford, Connecticut. This is the price range that he seems to be looking in, because he's only looked at cars around $20,000. And now I've got this little profile going with him, but he still left the site. So now what? So the advertising companies now working with these data analytics companies, they leverage it, because now they can actually spot your IP address on another website that's in this advertising network, and they can actually show you an ad for that Camry or that Honda Accord or the Taurus on another website, completely unrelated. You could be on a clothing store site, or shopping for jewelry or whatever, guitars. You're on a completely different site unrelated to cars, but the ad has followed you now, and it's tracked back so well that they've got this profile and they tied it to your IP address. So now they got another potential way of getting you back to that website to buy that car. So as you can kind of see this pattern developing, these profiles, that's how powerful they are. And that's why I suggest this thing about, clearing your cookies or clearing your cache history, stuff like that. But here's the rub with that, because if you were to just from the start just enable private browsing, which every browser provides, none of that data could really be tracked very accurately, but there's still like a way for them to track it, because they've got your IP address and they still can tie it to a car that you looked like. A car you looked at, and also if you signed up and you logged in, they can still store that data, and that's still kind of associated to that IP address. So even if you clear your history and you clear your cache and you clear your cookies, they can still build this profile. So the other step that you have to take is you actually have to go to the ad itself and find the little button that's somewhere on the ad that will let you click on it and take you to the Advertising Alliance, whatever one it is, where you can opt out and you can actually purge your data. So you can actually go on to the affiliate sites or the alliance sites or whatever they call them, and purge all the data that they have on you that they've recorded, from whenever they first recording it. You have to basically go in and you have to click a series of buttons and take a series of steps, but you can clear that data. You can request that data is wiped out. And it's amazing, because as soon as you do it and you go through the steps, it may take you 5 to 10 minutes, but go back to that same site and refresh the page, and you'll notice that ad now is not the ad for the cars. Like, it's something generic, something just out of their generic ad network. So they don't have your profile, and they're not targeting you specifically now. So that's a good way to kind of clear yourself from that system. But it is tricky because you actually have to come across an ad where you're seeing those personalized ads, and you have to click through them, and you have to go through the steps, and you have to purge that data. Now the other one, that in recent months, I guess months, let's say years, but it's really been in recent months that big privacy concerns have popped up, obviously with Facebook, but Google too. But now you can go in and you can just search my activity in Google, and you'll find your Google activity, and you can purge your location history, because if you're using Google, especially if you have an Android device, they just have it turned on. So or if you want to go and use Google Assistant, sometimes you're kind of opting into location tracking. So they want to be able to enhance the experience, like in quotes, enhance the experience. So they'll say, leave your location history on if you go into Google Maps, and so that way they can pop up things and suggest restaurants or suggest whatever they think you might be interested in. But that means that they're tracking your every movement. So you can actually go clear all of your location history. You can clear your browsing history. You can clear your history for what you search on YouTube, what you search in Google, what photos you might have searched in Google Images, like any of the Google products, like everything is tracking you. So that's the other side of it, is there's the massive search engine, which is Google, that's tracking everything. And it really wasn't until the European Union kind of stepped in, and they got the GDPR laws, which essentially they passed laws that says that Google it has to give basically people have the right to be forgotten. So in Europe, Google isn't allowed to store that data, or it needs to provide a way for people to delete all that data. And it's not mandatory in the United States yet, but they still provide the options for purging your data, because it's kind of kind of interesting that the European Union did that, but the United States is still not doing it. But anyways, that's one thing that you can have easy control over, is your Google data can be purged relatively easy just by Googling my activity. And the GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation. I just looked it up because I was trying to remember what it was called, because it's not obvious. But that's why now you get the annoying little pop-ups on most sites that says, be aware that we use cookies, because they have to legally tell everybody that there's tracking cookies on a website. So everybody is kind of getting annoyed by it and aware of it, and that's why you got a whole slew of emails that came out that basically talked about all the privacy policies and how they collect data and use your data. That's all related to the whole GDPR being passed in the European Union. So I think it's just being aware. Again, this is all about creating awareness. It's why I'm doing this. I'm trying to help people be aware of what's going on. Now, if you choose to ignore things and do nothing, then that's your decision. And I'm not going to say it's a wise decision, but I'm going to say it's your decision. You're free to do that. So let's see, the next thing that I wanted to cover, because in practicing safe internet, I think it's important to know things like identity theft, or catfishing, just to kind of give a quick explanation. I think a lot of people are familiar with identity theft. I think it all ties back to what I started the last episode on, was being aware of what links you're clicking. And most of the time these companies are not just going to send you emails saying, oh, I need all this information, your social security number, birthday, mother's maiden name, cat's first name, how many times your cat goes to the bathroom during a day, like all of those things that could be security questions that could be used to log into your account. And that's what hackers are trying to obtain, and that's what phishing is. Now that's basically what helps them steal identities, because they got enough information about you to make up their own profile. This is the hackers doing it, but they've created a profile that they're essentially, now able to take and go out and apply for credit cards and apply for credit. Now, in that same vein, as a sidebar, there's, a way to freeze your credit. So you can go to all the major credit bureaus and, you just Google like each one, Experian and Equifax and TransUnion, I think is the other one. You just Google each of those and freeze my credit report, and you can freeze your credit report. And that was fun. It's always nice when you kick your computer over by accident and you have to stop recording your podcast. But the video still plays. But now I have to go and fix what I did on the video. The video. Do-do-do-do. Report. Is that funny? I just said the word report. Like I'm talking to a 5-year-old. Credit report. This is how the magic happens. Sometimes you gotta edit the stuff. I mean, mainly I just talk right through, but I kicked my computer over, so that was fun. Because I'm sitting on the edge of a couch. SMH, people. So that way, these criminals can't go opening new lines of credit with your username and not your username, but your first name, last name, social security card, but basically your identity. They won't be able to actually go and do that because your credit report will be frozen. So that basically means that I believe it has to send a notification email to you at the email address that you provide when you freeze your credit report. So I even think you might have to even call in. I actually haven't looked into it, and kind of shame on me. I haven't actually froze my credit reports yet, but I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Sure. But when you do that, it is something that helps prevent identity theft, because it essentially slows down the criminals. It puts them at a stop. They can't open up new lines of credit. They can't go open up credit cards in your name. So it's a good idea to do that. Now, I think I've emphasized you got to be careful of the phishing emails, and you got this identity theft. But what can I say about e-commerce shopping now? What's coming up now? I think that one is important to cover too. Buying things online. I just wanted to create a new track before I do this, so that's why it sounded weird. That's why I sounded like a robot, Mr. Roboto. And I'm parched. And I get a sip from my water bottle. Here we go. Now, being a smart shopper is just going to save you money, but it's also, I think, a way of protecting yourself online, because you're less likely to fall for online shopping scams or get gypped or duped. If I kind of provide you some guidelines here, like I think you can agree that these all kind of make sense in the grand scheme of things. Now, I like to do research before I purchase anything online. I like to start off on Amazon. If Amazon for whatever reason doesn't have that product and it's specialized, it makes it a little harder, but then sometimes you can find it on eBay. But also, you can maybe find stuff at Walmart or Best Buy. But, a lot of times I think it's just a matter of doing the research. I think, if you really want something and you can wait a little bit and be patient to get it, you could generally find a better deal when you search around. And I think a lot of people just do that now because it's a lot easier. You can do your research. But some of the tricks that I use is, if I go to Amazon, generally it's because I'm impulsive and impatient and I really want to see it delivered tomorrow or the next day. And that's what makes Amazon such a powerful company, because you're getting these things for cheaper, generally speaking, than most places, and then it's also showing up the next day. Sometimes though, you'll find that there are actual deals at Walmart. They may be running some kind of special or have a coupon, or Best Buy, same deal. They might have a coupon or be running a special. Now, if you start looking, like, there are third-party sellers through Walmart, so they could potentially be selling it for cheaper. Amazon, of course, has other sellers. You may be able to get it for 10% cheaper, maybe 15% cheaper if it's refurbished or it's used through Amazon. They have third-party sellers. Sometimes it's not covered by Amazon through Prime. I'm weary of those because I don't like that you don't necessarily get the same protections. I mean, you do pretty much get the protections of most things you buy through Amazon unless it says otherwise, but when it's Prime, that it's somehow going through Amazon's distribution network, and it's a lot easier to return that kind of an item. So I generally, I'll take my chances in other places and hope that I'm taking the chance because it's going to benefit me, because I'm going to save even more money. And that's when I'll jump on to eBay and I'll look and see if there's refurbished or used items there. But sometimes I just start my search off on a site called slickdeals.net, which it's a community of users that are reporting deals on items, and so popular items. So say you want to buy a Kindle, or you want to buy some AirPod ear headphones. You might start on Slick Deals, but you may not find anything. All the offers might have expired. You'll generally see a ton of stuff around Black Friday. You'll see stuff sometimes, end of January, maybe they're getting rid of extra inventory. Then you'll see stuff kind of pop up around the holidays that come up, but then it kind of gets slow. And then you get Amazon Prime Day, which now everybody's trying to capitalize on it. It's like a midsummer Black Friday, although the deals aren't that great everywhere. There's a bigger illusion going on, I think, during the Amazon Prime Day. And Amazon does stuff leading up to it. And granted, they've got some stuff at the forefront of it that is a deal. But I don't know. Most of the things I haven't seen making me want to buy it that day. But, I think on the first year that they did it, they had better deals and they've kind of just tapered off. But you got other companies like Amazon. I'm sorry, that was Amazon. Walmart competing with Amazon, and because of that, you might see some actually good deals come out of the Walmarts and Best Buys, and even sometimes Staples. Generally I'm looking for something electronics related, but it could be anything. It could be printer paper. It's not necessarily electronic. Obviously, it's complementary for an electronic device, but sometimes it could be clothing. You'll see Kohl's or I don't know, Marshall's, Target. Like they'll all be trying to capitalize in some way in a online fashion. Pun. But I think it still warrants research. Now, one of the best tools that I think exists out there for helping you do the research when it comes to the price is this thing called Honey. And Honey actually is an online or an extension tool for the browser. You have an online account with it, which of course I think you can sign in through with Google or Facebook or something. But it actually was really designed, I think, to track prices and price changes on Amazon, because it integrates pretty well. If you're on a desktop computer, it doesn't work on the Amazon app, but if you're on a desktop computer and you're logged into Honey and you've got the Honey Chrome extension in your browser, when you go to Amazon, you'll actually see the Honey logo, and the little extension is kind of embedded in the web page. And when you click on it, you can actually dig in to find the price history of that particular item. And that can be pretty powerful, because it can tell you when the last time the lowest price ever was and when the highest price was, and you can detect if there's a pattern and determine if you want to wait, and potentially you can wait another month, or you could decide, well, it's only going to save me $5, so I'm going to buy it right now. But either way, it lets you track that. So I think that's kind of powerful, in terms of online research. Now, I mentioned the things that I've done to help get myself the best deal, but I also want to mention this god-awful site that I just loathe. It's called Deal Dash, and there's other sites that are similar to it, but they give you this illusion that you're going to pick something up for $13. And honestly, it may be $13 for that particular auction, but they don't really disclaim the fact that you need to buy tokens or buy bids, and it could cost you thousands of dollars bidding on many auctions to try to get the MacBook Pro for $20 or whatever it is. So it's really kind of deceptive, and every time I see the ad, I cringe, because it just makes me think, it makes people think that you can actually get these products for that cheap, but doesn't really tell you the amount that you have to invest into it to get to that point. And potentially you're spending thousands of dollars just learning how the game works, because it's an auction site and you got to learn how to operate within it. So I often tell people, beware of that one. And I haven't really came across many people who've kind of fallen for that, but I think in this, in the vein of practicing safe internet, that's a site that you should stay away from. I think some other, smaller tips that I think are good, rules to follow is, and you'll hear this a lot, is, all these sites that I've been talking about, and the Amazons and eBay and Walmart, as a good practice, every single site should have a different password. You should not be using the same password for multiple sites. I know it's hard. You can use apps like 1Password that are password managers. So they're kind of local. So you have 1Password to log into that, and then you just copy paste the password for the individual sites, and it lets you have, however many, 100 different passwords, but you only have to really remember the one to get into the password manager. That a password manager is a good idea to help encourage that good behavior, which is to have separate passwords for every site that you use. And I think sometimes it's just pure human laziness, where we're just using the same password because we don't want to have to try to remember multiple ones. Now, I've used techniques in the past, until all the sites got hacked, but I at one point had about 5 or 6 passwords that I combine in different ways. So, I'd have password 123, and then on another site I'd go and use 312 combined, or I'd use just 2 and 6, and I'd have all these different combinations of how I'd use these 6 passwords, but every site I'd switch up the routine for how I did it. And then I kind of got smarter and started using password generators that generate strong passwords for my whatever sites I'm logging into, and then you use 1Password to store those passwords. So 1Password actually is the tool that can generate those strong passwords. So you don't have to even know what the thing is, really. I mean, these days, it's a good idea to use two-factor authentication. So you want to use, with Google, you get a token, essentially an app on your phone. It's an authentication app that has a token, and whenever you log into something, you actually have to go grab that token and then go put that token into the site, or you have another, two factors. Like there's, the first factor is your password, the second factor is authenticating in some other means. So it's, it could be you get a login code texted to you or emailed to you, or you've got a device, your phone, actually is dedicated as the two-factor device, so you actually have to, click a yes on your phone or something like that in order to authenticate. But, using two-factor authentication, if you forget a password, you can just reset it, because you'll just use the two-factor authentication to create a new password, essentially generate another strong, unknown password, unknown to you, so that when terrorists get their hands on you and they're torturing you, you just say, I use one password. I don't know my passwords to government secrets, because who can remember that stuff? So you can protect national security too by using one password. That should be their slogan. So I think that's another thing that I think people should be aware of, be conscious of, and use to help practice safe internet. And I think the last thing that I just wanted to briefly mention is when you're paying online, I actually found, I've paid with PayPal, I've paid other people, I should say, when I've sent money to a friend or family member, like I've used Google Pay, I've used PayPal, I've used Venmo, and those three are great, but, within the last year or so, I learned about Zelle, Zelle, and Zelle was great because it's part of your banking app. Now, there was no fee, and somebody had to send me money. I think it was my boss, when I was working somewhere, had to pay me back because I expensed something for an event. And she had to send me $100, and she's like, have you tried Zelle? And I was like, I've heard of it, but I've never actually tried it. And it took me 2 minutes to set it up through my bank app. And I told her the email address that I used, and then she sent me the money, and it was in my bank account. And it was all in a matter of, 10 minutes, and it was great, and I don't discount that Venmo and PayPal and Google Pay don't work well. It's just there's they're middlemen in some way, because you're going to get the money transferred into those accounts, and then you got to transfer that money back to your bank, and so there could be a hold going into those accounts for a day or two, and then transferring that money to your bank could be another 2 business days or something like that. So if you need money fast into your bank account for some reason, Zelle could work. I mean, it depends on how much, because if it's only a couple $100, it may transfer quick. If it's like $50, it may be no hold. But if it's $1,000, you might be looking at, a 2-day hold on it. So that's just one thing that I found useful, because I think paying online is another thing that's becoming very prevalent, in this day and age on the internet, and you need to be practicing safe interneting when you're paying too. So I think that's all the things I wanted to cover. I do plan to do a future episode about helping keep your kids safe online and the steps to take to protect them, but that's going to warrant a whole separate episode, and I'll figure out when that comes. Maybe the next episode, maybe a couple from now, but we'll see. So just want to leave that with you. And I'm gonna record the outro. If I could get the track to load, and I could stop talking to myself so I can hit play, man. Yeah, I entertain myself, if you couldn't tell. Well, that wraps up another episode of Finding Your Identity. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope to have you come back next time. So, I could stop having to spend my spare time tracking people down, because it's really starting to get a little tiring and annoying, just to track people down to watch listen to my podcast. And now there's a video. I decided to start recording videos, so there's a YouTube channel, which is Finding Your Identity Podcast. Well, that's not the name of the channel. It's just Finding Your Identity. But that's the Gmail that I had to create, because Google's funny like that. But anyways, I invite people to go check out the video. You could also follow Finding Your Identity on Twitter at FY_identity, and you can hopefully comment and talk back to us, which is right now me. But soon enough in the future, maybe there'll be an us or a team of us's. Who knows? I might need a bus to put all the us's on to get them to work. You never know. But you won't find out if you don't listen. And you won't see this if you don't watch. Okay. Until next time, this is Finding Your Identity. Yeah. Good episode, right?